Hi, my name is Heather Chambers. I am the author of Earth Sucks and many more. I almost said suckish books to come. They do not.
I mean, hey, lower people's expectations. They'll be pleasantly surprised.
They will be very pleasantly surprised. As well, just me in the future going, why did I say that? Hi, my name is Heather Chambers. I am a 24-year-old author in the queer community. I am bisexual, as you will very much see in my book, Earth Sucks, about a bisexual love triangle in a post-apocalyptic disaster setting. It's where our main character, Fong, is both the hunter and the hunted, and his only means of survival is befriending his enemy. And said enemy grew up on horror stories of humanity, so they're gonna mesh great. It's perfect for fans of The Last of Us and The 100, ignoring the last season of The 100, we don't go there. And also, anybody who grew up loving the Tumblr threads of humans are space orcs. I am very guilty of that.
I can't say that I've personally heard of those particular Tumblr threads, but I will immediately be looking them up after this interview.
It is a black hole.
So is Tumblr in general. I think that's the general acceptance. It's a black hole we'll never escape.
Absolutely never. Once you start, it's like even when you think you've gotten out of its clutches, it's no longer 2013. You have a life, you have a car, potentially a job, and you're like, oh no, I've been sucked back in. Well, it's home. It's home.
Truly.
Instead of a welcome mat, there's just a dark void. Tumblr.
It's like the equivalent of the closet in your house that you never open until you're looking for something very specific, and then you open it and you spend like your entire day seeing all this stuff that you used to like and like shoved away. Is really like what it feels like for me. Like, you know, when you go to clean your room and you find the thing you haven't seen in a decade, and that's like your entire obsession for the few hours.
Cue, not hours, cue like freaking weeks.
Right.
Next month, you just keep bringing it back out. You're like, oh, shiny. And you put it out with the rest of the stuff, and it's in your room, and you stare at it every day. You tell that I've recently gotten back into Tumblr.
Yes, but same, so it's vibes.
Swim in trash together, it is fine.
You know what? That is friendship. I think we're friends now. We've bonded over Tumblr.
I think so. I think that we've crossed the threshold. As soon as you mention Tumblr and the other person agrees, it's like you're now you can't get away from it.
Right. The second it's mentioned and the other person doesn't look at you with disgust, that's it. Like that's
And you're just like, and if you need to like really subtly, you're like, I like your shoelace. And if the other person doesn't go,
I stole it from the president.
I said, ooh,
yeah. So first of all, congratulations on the release of your debut novel. That
Thank you.
Is amazing. How does it feel knowing that you have a book out in the universe?
Holy cow, it's incredible. It is nerve-wracking. It's because books have always been a part of my life. I grew up spending Sundays at the library. I'm pretty sure that just stemmed to just get us out of the house and quiet for a few hours, but it worked. I am now a bookworm, and I've always made up stories, like during the hour-long bus ride to and from school. That was mainly just to keep the children from screaming every morning so we wouldn't get headaches. But, you know, I got the name The Magical Storyteller from a kindergartner from that.
Aww.
So that was adorable. No, she would come up to me during recess through the chain link fence. They weren't imprisoned. It was just tiny elementary versus older elementary, I swear. And she'd go to hug my thighs, just like, it's the magical storyteller. And I'm like, you will never know why I started telling those stories on the bus.
Right.
Just our peace of mind. So yeah, they've always been there. And being a military brat, born, raised, and transferred somewhere, book characters have always been my only consistent form of friends, because every 3 years you'd move. So it's been woven into practically every fiber of my being at this point. And to think that these worlds that have kept me company through thick and thin and showers and dark places, just think that they're out there like professionally edited and will continue to be published because I am in no way done. That's just wild. And if only one child or one teenager is able to withstand a lonely summer after moving because of my stories comforted them, then I would be over the moon. So all in all, I'm like, this is real. This is happening. Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
I can only imagine, like, and especially because, like, you have physical, like, you can hold it, you can see that it is there. Like, you can put it on your bookshelf with all of the other books that you've had your whole life, you know? Like, that, I just imagine is so surreal.
It absolutely is. When I first got the boxes of there's dozens of books inside, you pick it up, you just started crying. It was like, oh my gosh, all of this hard work in the late nights. This is my baby, and it's actually been dubbed the grandchild because none of my parents have grandchildren yet, so I'm like, here's your grandchild, and it's now up on their shelf, and it is dubbed the grandbaby, and it works. It really is amazing, and especially having it on the shelf right there, as thick as it is. Like, I'm pretty sure if somebody broke into your house, you could grab it and wallop your intruder, and it'd be just fine.
You could absolutely give a concussion. That is a thick book.
It's got, so I can whip you a concussion with all this world building and all these gay characters. It'll be so good. Oh no, I can say that I love holding her in my hand. This is not the greatest hand position.
That's the ideal hand position. What are you talking about?
If I have my book on me right now. Ah, yes. No, I have a book next to me. This is how you present your child. This is how you present your grandchild, of course. Newborn grandchild, take.
How else would you hold one?
Like a big pizza pie. Don't drop your pizza pie, grandchild. I even wanted to bring some out so that I could have them be like, look, it's real, and it's actually next to me. They're not imaginary friends. And then I realized it was one of the first things I'd so carefully packed, and I was like, that's incredibly helpful of me.
Oh. You know what? That's all right, because I have... Hold, please.
Savior.
I have a copy right here. So it is real.
You also moved a lot, but you're not an army brat.
I am not.
So kind of by choice.
No. No, not an army brat. Just parents wanted to be in a school system that was really nice, but that meant that the town was very financially out of our means. So it was just a lot of bouncing around until we couldn't afford it and had to move down a bracket.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there is a mood.
But, you know, if nothing else, I'm really good at packing. Like, my friends love to get me to help them move. Because it's like...
Oh, my goodness. You become an expert so fast. You know all the right techniques for all of how you're supposed to pack books, more specifically. How you're supposed to pack them, and then the taping them over, and you're just boom, boom, done, next box. Boom, 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 done, next box. And then also you're strong because you've been carrying them all your life. Those muscles come from hardship. Tears packing away your friends for who knows how many weeks. And there's some old cold storage facility out of reach. That's the saddest story you've ever told.
Very colorful. Paints the picture perfectly. For those who didn't have our experience.
Don't envy us. Do not envy us. Especially when you're on a budget and a timeline. Oh, the timelines are the worst.
Oh man, they're hard to like keep up with.
Oh, keep up with and then stay on top of and then not just like start drowning because everything is everywhere all at once, which is a great movie. But the boxes are everywhere. That movie is kind of like what's happening in my head right now.
I can't say that I've seen it yet, but once I do, I'll understand.
I could not even begin to explain. And for anybody who has seen it, I don't think they could explain it either. You honestly just have to see what the trailer is and be like, yeah, there was absolutely no way I would have been able to explain that. What did I just see? It was marvelous, don't get me wrong.
No, those always end up being the best movies where it's like, I have absolutely no idea how to explain it to you, just go watch it.
Of like, you will be confused for the first 45 minutes. However, the last 45 minutes is just masterpiece. Oh yeah, what's the characters like? Good. I tell you, I don't need any kind of research or inspiration on a character with ADD. I love my sister and my mom to bits. I've studied them all my life. I don't need any other references.
Right. It would be the most realistic representation.
Oh my gosh, and I could go up to them and be like, hey, do you want to read this part to see if I've done it correctly? And they'd be like, I don't remember doing that! And I'm like, of course you wouldn't. It would all come full circle.
Right.
Do you have any family members that you would base a character on?
Oh.
The most eccentric ones are the best.
Right? I would if I were able to do it in a way that they, like, wouldn't realize it was inspired by them. Because I feel like people would be more likely to get upset, even if it wasn't, like, maliciously intended.
Are you right? What are you doing to these characters?
Yes, but it would have to be, like, exaggerated in a way to where they wouldn't pick up on it.
I see. I have the good fortune of A, them not remembering a single thing that they've ever done since breakfast. And B, I can just go up to them and be like, I really like the bit that you said about the toaster and the hamster while driving, so I'm gonna put it in the book, and they just be like, sure. No, I don't need context, and then they'd leave.
Sick. That is the ideal.
Never get asked for context. I'm like,
it's easier.
It's the family plagiarism.
Where else are you supposed to get inspiration?
Right? If not for the weird, eccentric stuff your family does. It's when all the inspiration comes from real life, and that's when it really sticks. That's the good stuff. That's the gold nuggets.
Right? Well, because then it just actually feels like real character, or like real people versus characters that were manufactured. It's like, nah, like I know somebody who would say that shit.
Exactly. I have actually a lot of like the little tics of the antics of people in the books are based off of mostly my sister. And she's fully aware of this, and she's like, oh yeah, I don't remember doing any of this, but it's really cool. And I'm like, this is exactly what you say when you drive every single time. You call people nutters. And she's like, oh, I do? Cool. I have little jokes and little personality traits that are in some molded by the people that I've met, and it also helps you remain consistent with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's the fact that I've based the character I'm talking about is called Lloyd, the lumberjack. My sister is 5'3", teeny tiny little firecracker. So, you know, if she had a choice to become a lumberjack, I'm sure she'd take it. They'd be the exact same person. My gosh, I just realized. Sister, this is a great. I need her to draw this. She's an artist, so she can do stuff like that, in which I will definitely make her do that, because that is a beautiful image.
You
The
absolutely
attention.
should. That is so funny.
No, there's so many other little tidbits that just come from weird stories I've heard from her and my family over the years, and people you pass by in like coffee shops. The stuff I've researched, dude, for every kind of story, it is if the FBI is keeping any sort of eye on me, I am sorry.
Dude,
And please ignore all of my search histories.
Right? I honestly think about that all the time, and if I were like any level of tech competent, I'm not. But if I were,
That's incompetent. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I just think it would be like such a fun idea to create like an entire search engine dedicated to authors. So like you could type whatever you wanted without getting flagged. You know?
And you have to put in your author pen name to get in, so that like some suspicious like little fellows can't go up on in there and be like, ooh, alright, so how much for an eyeball? You have to have a bit of. And if you mess up in any way, shape, or form, your history then gets put public. So you got to keep a clean rap sheet. You got to make sure you're not some sort of little. No, that's not a word. You got to be real careful, essentially. If you friend anybody, if you turn out to be a bully, just watch that entire search history go.
Right? Be like, you better be real good at explaining all of that sketchy searches.
Because knock, this is the police.
Oh man.
Search histories. Oh dear.
Be like, I don't even need to ask, just cuff me.
Yeah, do not explain anything more, please.
Be like, yeah, can't deny. We'll go quietly.
Because Lord, if my mother hears about this, there would be some. Oh yeah, there's all of our search histories in writing are a tad suspicious. I feel like for readers too. Because you're sitting there going, is that true? And then you go, and you fall into the rabbit hole.
Oh man. Yeah, no, as a reader, I do that all the time because I'm like, I don't know enough to know if this is accurate or not, but like, I'm gonna review it, so I need to confirm. Oh, I have the weirdest search history.
I'm like, I don't think that's true. Let me just go fact check myself. And then the next thing you know, you wake up, it's 3 a.m. and there's like lucky rabbit feet on your computer. And you're like, how'd I get here?
What is the weirdest thing that you've had to search to like fact checked or like verify in your own writing?
Well, it started as I wanted to know if you could die by somebody injecting air into your veins.
Oh, okay.
And you know, as you do.
Yeah, as you do.
Like, it's not an actual thing, and how would you die? And I have family in the medical industry, so then I went and asked her, and she said, oh yeah, here's this story about a guy who got blown up in the hospital because his nurse accidentally plugged him into the wrong socket, and essentially air just kept pumping into his body, and then he blew up. And I was like, well, thank you for that information. They're actually in a cave at this moment. I don't think they have the equipment to pump air into somebody's open chest cavity, but I am going to go quickly look that up.
Right? Be like, I'll keep that in mind. Well, can definitively say that blows.
I don't know if I want to praise you or like just put my head on the desk. I'm gonna praise you instead.
I will put the head on the desk. Oh man.
If anybody comes in and says that they have something better than nurses blowing up their patients by accident, I need to know. I need to move forth. And I need to know. Coming off of bodies.
Coming back from that, what made you choose to self-publish versus the traditional route of finding a publisher?
This is a really tough and scary decision. How much do you know about the traditional side of the publishing game?
I feel like more than the average person, but not extensive knowledge at all. Well, because that's one of the big things. It's so hard to find out, and like it's really hard to research. So I'm not surprised that so many authors.
Part of the game is the mystery,
right? It's very much like gatekeeping, like Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss.
It's just they want all the secrets to themselves. It's gatekeeping Girl Boss. But only the elite can go in. But it's actually, that's not, far from the truth. It is darn hard to figure out anything.
Mm-hmm.
I only found out because I finally weaseled my way in through a standalone. And I'm like, oh, this is how we're doing things. Okay, good to know. And absolutely bumbled my way through. So I chose self-publishing with Earth Sucks for a couple reasons. It was massively a going from the pros and the cons list. I actually had to write them out because I was like, what the heck am I doing? So with the self-publishing, on the one hand, I do all the work myself. I format the documents for printing because, we cheap and we don't have the moolah to go extensive post-editing everything. I do have a sister who helps me, who is in the printing industry, so she knows the proper formats and the softwares and can help me go and look at all the screens and be like, why does it look like this? I thought you were writing a book and not just crayons on walls. So I do. So with self-publishing, you do a lot of everything yourself. You get your own copyrights. You acquire your ISBNs. ISBNs for me because I'm Canadian. You have to decide where you're publishing through, which avenues, like either Amazon exclusive because they really like their moolah and they don't like to share, or if you want to go wide, which is far more difficult alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to manage 5 or more different platforms with all of their own kind of, if you do X, Y, or Z wrong, we kick you out, and you're like, I'm sorry, I don't know. So you have to manage it all, distribute it, and market it. It's a lot of work. And it's like 80% of the job is trying to do the job.
Right.
And 20% is actually just writing it. Holy cow. So it is a lot of work. However, I get to keep all of the proceeds, and I get to keep the rights of doing whatever I want with the book, to the book, including selling it at Comic-Con conventions. I'd have to go through a bunch of channels with the traditional world to have that be a thing, and then decide royalties, and that is a lot of hoops that I have no idea how to navigate.
Fair.
However, on the other hand, if I go traditional, I would hand over the rights to the books. I would follow a contract under their deadlines, their regulations, which is entirely fair because they have dozens of people to manage, and they're like, come on, you gotta keep all your ducks in a row. So you get paid under 20% for the profits, and you also skid away a lot of the meat of the story in order to meet a certain word count, because for every genre there's an expected word count. But if you go traditional, you don't have to worry about searching for the correct editor. I spent years searching for the correct editor, for one who you click and you vibe with and who knows exactly what you want with the story. Yeah. So with traditional routes, you don't have to worry about that. They'll be supplied. I don't have to pay them because I tend to write big, thick books. And the more words, the more moolah.
Mm-hmm.
So I also don't have to worry about copywriting, about formatting, or any of that shebang. They will get my books into big stores like Barnes & Noble, Indigo, if they haven't been eaten by somebody else yet, big corporation. So they will help you out with all of those really difficult things and reach those heights that as an indie, I don't have access to. So there are a lot of perks. And I only know any of this because I got one of my standalones accepted into Renaissance Press Publishing, a Canadian publishing house. They're a small press, and they've got a young adult thriller that I've written. So all of my knowledge comes from them.
That's so fair.
Not of the big five. But but that was after I had published Earth Sucks, so I was still kind of figuring out, what am I supposed to do with all of this information? And in the end, I figured, I know my book, and I know where I want to put it. And no, I won't have as big of a reach, but I will have more of a say of what goes into it, and certain subject lines that might be towing the line. That was mainly my decision. I knew some of my favorite storylines would be cut out. A lot of the characters would be cut out.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting here with a 150,000 word novel going, I'm a nobody. I don't have an agent backing me. If I hand this to anybody, I am not going to be accepted. And it'll just be months and months and months of rejections, of not knowing why. So all of these people had become so important to me that I couldn't take the chance of having a publishing house accept the story and then say, sorry, it didn't get enough reception to continue with the series, because I have big plans and for spin-offs and spin-offs of spin-offs. So I couldn't take the risk of it not being receptive enough that it wasn't worth all of the money to publish more of the books. So I said, you know what? Even if I go broke, I'm gonna make my dream come true. And they'll just be sitting on my shelves because it's my baby. I don't care. I will appreciate them if nobody else does. But I apparently don't have to worry about that bit.
Right?
As this interview will suggest. Thank you very much. Tooting my own horn.
I mean, somebody's got to toot it at some point.
I also tried to do tooting my own horn. This is entirely the gesture for when you're tooting your own horn. I know what I'm doing. This is why I write and don't talk.
Same. Except I made talking my thing. Who let that happen?
The best people. It got through the right channels, and I am so happy they did.
Oh, you are so sweet.
But it really is up to the person. Traditional publishing also takes like 4 times the amount of time. If you're doing it yourself, you get to set your time period.
Yeah.
And because I'm impatient. So I want the books to come out quickly to feed the readers. I want you to have this now. So that also kind of helps on my end. But if I were to do traditional with Earth Sucks, then, oh my goodness, the waiting. Oh, the waiting. It would be atrocious. It kind of is. Waiting for your edits to come back from an editor who has sent it to your third-party negotiator, and then it's sitting in their inbox for a week before it gets to you, and then if you have questions, you wait on bing, bang, boom, bing, bang, boom, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a bit too impatient for that.
Fair. I mean, that must have...
I got way too many questions.
Right. That must have made it that much harder because, like, I've been working with you for a while because you approached me to review the book, I want to say almost a year ago now, and you had your issues with your illustrator. And it took you a while to find an illustrator that was giving you your vision and that was actually, like, turning around the artwork. So I can only imagine, like, how that impatience affected. Like, you chose a route to where you could be more impatient, and then something that you could completely not control puts a wrench in that. That had to have been insufferable.
I can't remember if it was a tornado or a hurricane, but you know, when things happen, like natural disasters, you kind of just sit there and be like, I will just hold my thumbs and just, I'm okay, you take your time. You don't fight the tornado. Or whichever natural disaster it was, unfortunately for them.
Right.
Yeah, it was really difficult. It was one of the most difficult things about revamping this book. But eventually, thankfully, I did find an artist who could give me the vision, like you said. But because I was still jumping through hoops, book 2 got finished before book 1. So then also everything got flipped around, so book 2 is ready. Almost completely. And I was just sitting there going, everything is ready for this sequel, but oh my gosh, please, why? This is not the order of which things are supposed to go. It was immensely stressful, and I am so glad for all of everybody, like including you, who were just like, you know what, it's okay, just breathe. You come back when you come back, and if it sucks, you know what, we'll just hurrah you for pushing through it. Because wow. Those hoops were on fire.
Truly. But you made it. You're here. Book 1 is out, so.
Yes, and I've learned from every step of the way of not doing that again. Of not letting that happen.
Right.
So that for the sequel, it'll launch smoother, it'll get prepared smoother, and for book 3, it'll get prepared smoother. Every agonizing setback, I've jotted down what the solution was, the steps to take, so that, oh my gosh, let's never have that happen again.
Right. I mean, that's...
At the very least, it'll be a learning point.
I mean, that's, like, all you can take from it at the end of the day is, like, everything that you learn will just help the next time go that much more smoothly, so...
Yeah, suffer now, and you'll do better next time. Want to cry now, staring at a very bad manuscript, and then you'll be fine next time. As long as you apply and learn. That's always been our thing through, don't regret your mistakes, just learn from them, and then it'll be okay. You will do better. It will be better. It'll hurt less next time. As long as you learn, that is the most important part. And then you won't look back and cry as much. It's so painful thinking back to, like, the absolute hoops that we had to dig under, jump over, bungee through in order to make Earth Sucks happen. The release date got pushed so much, but it's out now. We survived.
You
Not
did.
everybody in the book, but we survived.
Small details.
Small details, small spoilers. I didn't name a name though, so.
Like, nobody needs to know.
Nobody needs to know, which I was about to drop a huge spoiler. No, it's beep, beep, beep. Eyed, beep, colored hair, beep. Profession takes a dive off the beep. No. They don't even know that. They can go through that themselves.
Like, they can read the book to find out.
Oh my gosh. And if I were holding it right now and had it next to me and not in a box upstairs, I could hold it up perfectly. My savior. I'm so glad that it's out now. And I do not regret choosing the path that I did. I'm proud of this book and the everything that's in it, and it's gone through definitely a couple rough patches, but it's been polished so much over the years, and that I'm so happy with the cover, with the format, with the contents, and the bonus features in the back. Those wouldn't have happened before. I'm glad I went to self-publish this one. I should probably say indie publish, because that means that I actually went to professionals and said, help make this good. And I am excited for learning more about the traditional side with standalones. I'm going to keep Earth Sucks as my baby and its sequels, but I do want to see the paths that open up with traditional publishing, and I will keep you updated.
I would love to stay updated.
Because all of them are still in editing hands.
Fair.
Editing hands are going, pandemic, oh my gosh! So, while they're currently on fire, we'll just little hose. What is the word? I'm not just spraying them with a hose. Fire extinguisher.
Okay, I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I couldn't jump in to help. I'm sorry.
So you're going, A, this looks like a gun. B, hose is not the word that you want. C, you were holding this a week ago. What was it?
You were holding it a week ago. Is everything okay?
It is now.
Where did the inspiration for the aesthetic of your aliens in the book come from? You know, like, what made you decide, oh, if, like, this is the world I'm creating, this is what I want the aliens to look and be like?
It was, this is pretty interesting. As you know, the concept of the aliens themselves and their culture came from Tumblr, essentially. It was inspired by all of the crazy, what if the humans were the scary ones, and when we interacted with the aliens, they just found us freaking terrifying. Because objectively, we are a terrifying species. We regularly drink poison for fun to, get drunk.
Yeah.
And we are creatures of endurance. We cannot if a cheetah is coming towards us, we're not getting out of that safely. But if we, as the predators, we can last for days and days, slowly hunting, and we will eventually catch up. No matter how tough the predator, we will keep walking, and we will find you eventually. You think that you're done? We got you. So, just in general, we're terrifying. So that's where that part came from. I was like, okay, so I have my premise of these aliens, which are going to be, first of all, the last thing anybody expected. And secondly, the glow, as you know, the eyes and the mouth glow. So it was, while I was creating it, I was surrounded by media at the time that if there was an alien and they looked humanoid, they didn't have scales or something, it was just the irises that were like a pale blue, and they just twinkled, or they just glowed like little flashlights. Like, it was always the same thing. It was always the irises.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a bit tired. I was like, I need something different. So I did like the idea, so I made it pop by turning the scleras, the white bit, black. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that seems demonic. Cool. Not enough, though. So it was more, I was trying to make it weirder, trying to make it bigger, a little bit more jarring and different. It had to be different. And my mom actually came up with the idea while we were floating in our neighbor's pool. Just on the floaties. We were just spitting out ideas at each other. And she went, what about the nose? And I went, no. We're not having to just laser beams coming out of the nostrils. I'm good, thanks. That's where I draw the line. And she's like, well, you never know. You wanted unique. And I was like, yes, in fact, I did want unique. It's a great suggestion. I'm gonna need something different, though. And she said, what about the mouth? And I figured, wait a second. That's actually... you're onto something here. And at first it seems like something really weird, right? Like, I fully expected at first to be laughed out of the room. But the more I thought of it, the more I was like, if it's a soft glow, if it's like glow sticks at the back of the throat, if it's just softly coming through, maybe it's like tendrils, smoky tendrils coming out. And I was like, that is actually, I have never heard anything like that before. I wanted different. That's different. And I started to warm up more to the idea, and I was like, okay, cool, get behind this. So it came out by by wanting to be different and swimming in the pool with my mom.
Honestly, I love that.
She has glorious ideas, and they're so far out there that sometimes they just blow mine out of the water, and I'm like, nope, that's good, go with that, thank you. I'm now taking that, and she's just like, go ahead. All the things that go boom, credit to mom. I was like,
right. I mean, that honestly just goes to show that the importance of creative collaborators. Because I'm very much, like, I love, especially with friends and collaborators and things, just, like, bouncing ideas off of each other. And I feel like I can come up with, like, okay ideas, but as soon as they're developed with another person, they become really cool ideas. And so it's, like, it's so important to just have that, like, artistic collaboration. But yeah, no, just...
And somebody to bounce off of.
Exactly.
And, like, 2 heads are better than 1 sometimes, and they get better with 3 and more, and they can take that small kernel that you have and just turn it huge. They can make it pop into an actual piece of popcorn, and somebody else adds the butter, and then somebody else goes, I have salt, bitches, and suddenly you've just got a perfect ensemble. And it a lot of my problems as well when I go to write, I go to my mom, I go to my sister, I go to my friends, and I'm like, help! And I bounce off what I've got, and they can take any little piece and say, have you thought about X? And then suddenly everything's so clear, and you're like, oh, now I can get back to writing till 2 a.m. Thank you. Ha! And you're fudged for the night. But I totally agree. It's the help that makes it better, and I've luckily got really kooky, crazy people around me to help. Who's like, do you want laser beams coming out of the nose? We're gonna stop to that.
That certainly would have been a concept, though. Well, it's so funny because
Sneezed.
it just, like,
Like, if there was something out of the ears too, you just become a tea kettle. When they're mad, it's just steaming out all ends, just colored lights. You look like you swallowed a disco ball out of all orifices. Man, if they mess with genetics in the Earth Sucks world.
Oh, that could provide some fun options.
If they could choose which orifice the glow comes out of, you can have 1 nostril, 1 ear, belly button. Laser beam! Inspiration comes out of the best of places and the weirdest of places. All the genres that just passed by my head with the word burrito.
I'm so thrilled I only pressed record on, like, the second half of that, so this is absolutely out of context, which is the best way.
That was indeed a career option. That could have been very lucrative. Because people, when the market is abundant but niche enough,
Oh, yeah.
the tentacle breeding could make you rent.
Oh, man.
Dad actually at one point was like, so how are your books coming along? And I was like, they're coming, they're trickling through. And he's like, I heard that smut authors actually get paid a lot. And I was like, you're not wrong. Can I bring in the groceries before we have this conversation?
Right? Can we have this conversation enclosed in the walls of our own home? If it has to happen.
If it has to happen. I mean, I acknowledge your point. It is a great point. Can I close the window?
Can we make sure nobody ever finds out that this was a discussion we had?
And if you ever want to buy these, just know they're going to be under a pen name.
Right.
But, like, hey, if I ever need to, there are entire avenue. And of which, that's essentially where, if you try to find alien stories, you're generally going to find that section of alien stories. And I'm like, good on ya. How do I market this thing?
Right?
Because it ain't got no tentacle dick.
But, like, whatever you're into, great. No kink shaming. Without that, though, what do I do?
Yeah, that was exactly it. Oh my gosh, the research that went into this is so great. It's so vast. You're exploring every possibility in every position. This is for upper YA. I don't think I can go here. Maybe in a couple years, but not right now. Out of context.
New next question. So about those spin-offs.
Spin-off indeed. Well, you know, as they grow, they're actually around 20 years old. Give us a couple years, and for my reader demographic to please get out of high school.
Right.
Then you know, I could totally write a couple good series. And you know, I don't skimp on the word count. A solid at least 42,000 words. Exploring every part of the fringe anatomy. Because, you know, they got their own culture. They must have their own rituals.
Awful.
But lucrative.
That's so fucking funny.
And, you know, the amount of fan fiction I read a night, I could totally, depending on how the love triangle goes.
So, like, this is definitely something you've had to have thought about, right? Like, if for your own purposes. Like, you know how things are going down. Sick.
Like, got most of the books planned out, and I'm legitimately, between book 2 and book 3, I was like, oh, I know exactly how they would have gotten together. I know what they would have first kiss would have been like. Oh my gosh, the first time that they tumbled into bed. Who's the top? Oh, definitely him. But if he says this, oh, he's gonna be on his knees in seconds. Not even half a second. Oh, there are indeed headcanons. Which I'm like, please demographic grow so I can write this. Because or else it's going on AO3. As soon, I tell you this, the first time, as soon as a fanfic comes up, I will A, shit myself, B, start crying because I'll be so happy, and C, that'll be the gateway opening to me throwing canon headcanons out into the wild and be like, be free, do with as you wish, because now that you have entered the realm of the fanfics and there are enough of you to do so, oh, you gonna be so well fed. I have plans.
We love to see the vision.
So disco ball, so rainbow. So rainbow.
Which is a perfect segue into the actual next question. Some of the characters within the book seem to have queer romantic affiliations, some more blatant, some more subtle. Would you care to specify or elaborate on the possible romances that we did see and possibly will see in the books?
Oh, you betcha. So, one of my favorite parts. I want to preface this by saying after I wrote the first draft, I thought about it and I was like, man, this is the straightest thing I've ever written. Then I went through my first editing process and went, no, this is the gayest thing I've ever written. Let's take it further. So, with that, so first things first, the alien race, the Fringians, or the Fringians of, you're not going to roll the R's, they are entirely pansexual. As a species, They are pansexual. Anybody is attracted to anyone regardless of how they present or their gender identity. They're just doing great. They're just there to have fun.
They're just vibing.
There to vibe. They're just like, let's just have a good time and not die out as a species. And you know, if we can do one of those, life will be great. So that is them. I am curious of how you thought Feng and Cheske, their sexual orientations. I'm curious what you thought.
My interpretation was definite, and I do apologize if I butcher any of the pronunciations. I pronounce them much differently in my head.
Don't even worry about it. I did not write any of these names with correct pronunciation for most people.
Okay.
Mine.
So I definitely interpreted Cheske as to being very into Feng And Feng, like, he definitely seemed like he had the romantic interest at different points with Chesuke and at different points with DM, but, like, he was almost trying to repress them or was in denial or, like, didn't fully realize that it was, like, a romantic or sexual interest. So I was curious to see, like, where that would end up in the future. Because, too, I mean, I'm also very much the type to, like, it's the experience of being, like, a queer reader and not having that much representation. I will very much read into things and I'm like, oh, but, like, some people might just think this is, like, pals being pals. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't entirely sure what was intended as being actual, like, romantic or sexual interest versus which was more platonic. Because, too, like, the queer community is, I feel like, in general, very, or, like, a lot more intimate with their friends than they are with, than, like, straight people are with their friends.
Yeah.
So it's like, because, like, most of my friend interactions are often interpreted as me flirting with them and them flirting back or, like, being into each other. Which, I mean, like, I'm constantly flirting, but to the outside person, everyone's like, oh, y'all are together. And it's like, no, that's just my best friend. Like, so it was hard to tell. I'm like, okay, what is just pals being pals and, like, who's into each other?
That is the exact same thing on my end. My friends and I, we never dispelled any rumors, partially because we didn't realize there were rumors going around. There was even a song at one point of, are they gay or just good friends? And we were like, ha ha ha! She's sitting on my lap as she's playing the piano and I'm just hugging her back. We didn't realize it was a legitimate question. So I totally get where you come from. And you are 100% correct. Chesuke is very, very much gay. He's very much gay for Feng, and he's kind of sitting there going, why him? Why this hot-headed firecracker? Of all people. Of all people. All right. And Feng is very much, he's also bisexual. He has all of these feelings for different people, but he's also still in survival mode, so there is no room in there right now to differentiate, do I actually like this person? It's more so, how do I get through today and wake up tomorrow? He's got a bit of work to do, which will happen once he's had a bit of chance to sit down and breathe.
Right.
Without being in pain. So you are entirely correct, and I am so very excited to delve more into the relationship of the three, because, as I said with the Fringans, DM would then be pansexual. She don't give a flying fuck of anyone, and everybody's just great as people, and she's learning this human might not be as terrifying as I was brought up to believe. Now, he's straight terrifying, of course, but he's not as dangerous. At least to me. There might be something interesting here. But, let's also consider surviving today.
Right.
One character you've met, called Freda, she also is very much into DM. So she would be, by our standards, considered a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Still pansexual, but DM. But what I liked about writing her, the poor thing, she respected DM so much about their situation, the betrayals that they were going through, and all of just the realizations of what is actually going on around them, to be like, okay, let's not push this here. I respect you and what we're both going through far too much to try and add this other layer onto it.
Right.
And so I really liked her, like, her honor and her devotion to DM. I thought it was a lot of fun writing that. Took little parts of you that you take, and you're like, I'm gonna put you into this character, I'm gonna put you into this character. That's heartbreaking, but let's add more to that. It was a lot of fun. Those four in particular really stood out to me. So if there are any other characters you think you want some clarification on.
Not specifically. At least not that I'm remembering. It was mostly those four that I had my suspects. With when it comes to DM, what?
They look a little sus.
Like when it comes to DM and Freda, is that how you pronounced it? Okay. Um, those two, like, you could definitely tell that Freda was like very into DM, and if I'm being honest, I think those were probably my own personal favorite characters. I just really liked their interactions and how you developed them, and I really like the idea of where they're going. So I think out of all of the like romantic prospects, those are the ones that read the most blatant to me. So I didn't even like really have to ask because I was like, no, that's something. Thankfully, that's something.
I'm so glad. I know that by the end, you can definitely tell that some relationships have shifted, some bonds have been tested, some strengthened, some broken. But I know that you can look forward to a bisexual love triangle.
Okay.
Definitely in the sequel between Feng, DM, and Chesuke for sure. And when I say love triangle, I don't mean the one that will make you try to tear out your own hair from the miscommunication trope. I can't stand that thing.
No, oh my god, thank goodness. Because like I absolutely hate the miscommunication trope. Like will literally ruin a reading experience for me.
It will. Just take the heads, bang them together, lock them in a broom closet, something. Just talk, and everything's fine. So all of their conflicts, rest assured, do not involve miscommunication. One of the fun fact parts of Fringen culture, as you know, is honesty. So she thinks if DM thinks that there's something wrong, doesn't matter how blunt it is, she will say it. So there's kind of no room for miscommunication because one is blunt as fudge and the other one has no concept of social construction. So if there's a problem, it's going to be blatantly obvious and they're just going to deal with it. So the actual conflict will revolve around the plot.
Sweet.
I couldn't do that to myself either. All right. You gotta find some actual concrete stuff. Thank you.
No, that's like so satisfying to know.
Now, these people are in the middle of a war. They don't got time to, like, if they have to support each other to survive and cement this, like, rickety foundation that they've built in book one in order to, keep everybody alive in book two, and because there's also they gotta keep alliances between species. If said cementing happens to strengthen certain bonds, well, just candy for the reader, of course. If I can spice things up during a rebellion meeting, well, who's to say?
Who's to stop me?
Stop me. I mean, really, the readers? No. We're all pining for this entire thing to go sideways in the best of ways and horizontal. It's still a YA novel, though. Still a YA. Upper YA. Because for obvious reasons, younger YA, I could not have somebody being tortured in a young YA. No, this is upper YA, so we got more leeway.
Yes.
Also rhymed. Upper YA, more leeway. More things to look forward to. But yeah, there's a war going on. So they gotta, not to say that there won't be any sort of romance, there's a lot of subtext. And there's a lot of, you're gonna have Feng dealing with the frustration that you mentioned of, hey, I think I'm into this to my best friend, and also a creature from outer space. What the heck? So you're going to be dealing with realization that it's okay to be human, and it's okay to have these feelings, and yes, things are really tough right now, but as he gets more and more comfortable with his surroundings, those really thick walls are going to start to come down, and it's going to be interesting to see how everybody else picks up the pieces and how they rebuild it.
Well, that's going to be really exciting to see. I'm really curious to see where you like go with it and which directions you choose to embrace more than others.
I want to say so much. I want to say so
I'm
much.
sure it's so hard to, like, not just blurb about it, you know?
I might start as soon as as you know, I'm in the midst of moving.
Yeah.
So I can't give any previews or teasers or anything for book 2. However, the second that I get settled, which will be end of February, early March, then I can start putting out book teasers, relationship teasers, excerpts. Keep an eye out for those, because they are coming. Just let me get my life out of a box first.
The small details.
Small details.
You're like, let me get my life together a little bit more before I share their lives.
Yeah, because theirs is a little bit messier than mine, but mine takes priority. Thank you. There's so much that's going to happen. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's an entire world that is yet to be uncovered, and there's so many more gay relationships. Don't think that they're the only ones. Oh my goodness.
I mean, if the entire alien species is pan, then, like, obviously that's gonna, like, make it much more likely to have queer relationships. So, no, that actually makes it really convenient. So, too, because, like, I mean, I don't personally feel this way, but a lot of people have the arguments of, like, oh, people are trying to put too many queer relationships in media, which, one, isn't even true. But, two, it's like, when it makes sense within the story, it's not like it's forced diversity points or anything like that. It just genuinely makes sense. This is a species that, like, naturally is pansexual, so obviously there's going to be all sorts of relationships. So,
and you can also, since they are all pansexual, they will have no problem with the human side being gay, transsexual, any part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Just imagine, like, not only are they saving our lives right now, these, of course, heading into the rebellion, but that won't be a negative part of the series. You won't have a negative outlook on, at least from the aliens' perspective, on the queer relationships that are going to happen on the human side as well, because they don't care. So there won't be any kind of homophobia. And I wanted that to be excluded from the books. We don't need to deal with that. And thankfully, as it turned out, when I was like, okay, yeah, no, all of the fringe community are pansexual, it made me realize, hey, that means I don't have to write any kind of dickheads. I should censor that. I don't have to write any homophobia in here, because, you know, we've dealt with enough of that. There's so many people out there. You don't need it in the fiction that you're trying to enjoy. So
right.
I was like, how convenient that I've given myself an out to not touch on that. Cool. I don't want to write it. You don't want to read it.
Right?
Perfect. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I love that.
I think a couple people will appreciate it, honestly.
Right? Well, it's like, you know, we already get so little queer media, and what we do get is, like, almost exclusively revolving around, like, other people's perceptions of it. And it's like, can we just have people exist? Like...
and just be happy and vibe. Because it's not all the drama and negativity and trauma that they perceive. It's like, yes, I like dudes, I like girls, I like trans dudes, I like trans girls, and I like the non-binaries. There you go. I love it. I'm happy with it. Let's have some nice peaceful media. The war is not what we're talking about right now. The war is not so peaceful. But
like, the war isn't relevant to this conversation, so
it's not relevant right here. The queer side of this conversation here is nice pastures with unicorns and daisies and roses. Thank you. Stop. So I'm happy I can bring that to the table.
Me too, honestly.
write what you want to read, and I don't want to read that kind of negativity, so I'm just gonna.
So what has the reaction to the book been like, and how has that compared or differed to your expectations of what you thought it was going to be?
It's astounding. I'm not gonna lie. It's astounding. Within the release, we reached number 2 on Amazon's hot new releases in post-apocalyptic young adult fiction, right next to All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown, and I was like, hello, hi, hi. And we hit number 14 in post-apocalyptic fiction for young adults, and then 48 in another category, 110 in another category. I did not believe my screen. I kept refreshing the page, and I saw it going up, and I was just bamboozled. I did not think this would get off the ground because this is such a niche category, a niche genre.
Yeah.
I was bamboozled, and it's also been absolutely hilarious getting messages from people who are screaming in my DMs that because I've turned their favorite obscure Tumblr threads into reality, and that is honestly exactly the kind of reaction that I was going for. Just the full-on spam with all caps. Do not be shy. Because not in 100 years did I think that, like, oh my gosh, people would want to read this. And they want more, and they enjoy it. Oh, wow. This is working. How is it working? So those, I'm not gonna lie, I screenshotted those bestseller rank on Amazon, and I was like, this is, even if everything is downhill from here, which I honestly, at this point, it does not seem to be, I'm happy. I am so honored, and I could not even form words. I thought this was just stick in the mud. Like, I cannot thank everybody enough, because, you know, there's so many good books out there that don't get enough hype for their worth. And, for example, literally anything that's not in any of the bookstores, like Indigo or Chapters, anything that's not in there, hello, they deserve the recognition, they deserve the big shelves. But no, and not only like the indies, but the traditional standalones that were meant to be full series, but the publishers decided it didn't get enough hype. It's gonna have to be a standalone, try to work on something else. And there's just so many of them that I was scared that I was also going to be stuck.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, Earth Sucks is trucking along. And you know, even if it was stuck in the mud because I went self-published, because I indied it, I would have just gone through with it anyways and just had them on my shelves and be like, finally, you're out of my brain. You are in the world. Thank you. You cleared up so much space. Like, the amount of space that you have permeated. But it's been amazing. I'm so excited to watch it grow and have more people contact me, because that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
My favorite part is everybody being like, ah! And they can't formulate more. And I've had people from Brazil who've messaged me on Tumblr with a bunch of hearts and their emojis of their flags, and I'm like, it's reached places! And it's just so nice. It's amazing. The reaction has been great.
That's so awesome. I didn't realize how high it had gotten on different Amazon lists. That's, like, honestly so amazing. I'm, like, so excited for you.
Oh, I thought I was dreaming. I only actually checked because every night my parents are adorable. They'd message me, they'd call me, they at the dinner, they're like, okay, so what is it now? What is it now? Have you checked? Have you checked? And I'm like, if this was going poorly, I'd be crying right now, but I'm crying for a very happy reason right now. So I checked consistently, and I was like, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's so exciting. And I'm glad that, like, you seem to have such a, like, supportive community around you that are, like, also excited for you. That's so important.
Oh, man. I would not be able to do this without them, because I'll delve into it, I think, in a little bit, but I didn't go to college, I didn't go to university, because those routes just, they weren't available to me. Well, they were available, but it wasn't possible for me to go through with the careers that I thought I was going to go to for the majority of my life.
Yeah.
And so my parents said, yo, we're stable. You have your own room. You have your own base. And so once you graduate high school, if life falls apart, just stay here. We will feed you. We will house you. Just work on you and do whatever makes you happy. And that's been a big thing in my house of growing up. You don't want your career to become work. You want your job to be fun. And so I've always, it got stuck enough that thankfully I was then able to, the year after high school, then just start writing and then be like, oh, wait, I really like this. And my parents are like, cool, keep going. We will keep you fed and supported until you're ready. So I'm so thankful to them. This literally would not be possible without them. They're so gung-ho on what makes us happy. And they're like, if writing weird little bug-eyed aliens makes you happy, go ahead, hon. Keep on trucking along. You do you. You do your little LG Mafia 25. I'm not kidding. Thing. You do your little alphabet mafia. You do that thing, and if it makes you happy, go right ahead. So I'm married. I'm so glad for them.
No, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you have that. That's awesome.
Could. I wish everyone could. So sad that for some people it's not available, but you know what? We'll adopt you. It's fine. If you can't live out your dreams and you need support, we got you. We will adopt you. Come to the Chambers family. We got you, hon.
So is there anything that you would have done differently about the whole process in hindsight?
I would have planned. For me, it's the technicalities. The writing stitch, I learned, and I was good. It's the technicalities. Most people would dip their toes in the water before writing a book. I dive bombed. And it's all right, because I learned how to swim, eventually. But my first drafts were not planned. I wrote it right after high school when I realized my social anxiety disorder and my stage fright meant that I was not going to enjoy a career in acting and in performance industry, and my hypermobility, a physical thing, meant my backup career as a stunt performer was way too dangerous. So,
No.
and also I would like to point out how those two are very extroverted activities. I'm not.
It's funny how that works out, because like I feel like there's a loophole. And by that I mean I was also a theater kid.
My people.
I was a backstage theater kid, but I was a theater kid nonetheless. There is the like phenomena of the theater kid loophole where like you will be as extroverted as you need to be in that context and nowhere else.
Nowhere else. You are a hermit in the basement in a corner, like rocking back and forth with a mug of tea afterwards for the next 3 days. Oh, I'm so glad you get it, because that is absolutely what it is. And it took me a second to realize just how introverted I was. And then, funny enough, I chose the most introverted career possibly on the planet. So it wound up working out.
Absolutely.
But,
at least until I pull you out of the introversion to do interviews.
yes! I get to do my excited, boisterous talkie, and then quiver.
Mood.
But thankfully, people like you understand. and readers will also get like, oh yeah, extroverted only in certain contexts. And then don't talk to me. So there are people that can write novels just very, like, without plotting every detail and just, like, sail by, like, the seat of their pants. And I actually believe that they're called pantsers. Instead of plotters, they're called pantsers or something like that. I, however, learned I cannot fly by the seat of my pants. They will catch fire. So I did my research on how to write a novel, but there's researching and then there's doing, and beginners won't be perfect, and that goes for everything, of course. If I try to play the piano right now, I won't be Mozart. If I go on a skateboard, I'm going to the ER. It's just what happens. So, but what I can do is I can learn, and learn I did. So the manuscripts I churn out now are comparatively so much better than when I wrote the first draft years ago of Earth Suck. I have tools now on crafting plots, resources, to study more. So I find plotting especially needed with the world building that I have and the vast amount of characters. So it rounds out. I learned with a heavy smack, plotting is what you need to do. And I did that. The launch is what I'm still finding difficult, because while I just want to throw my book into people's hands, being like, all right, the sequel's done, poof, just take it, eat it, please. Immediately, I now understand there has to be the hype, there has to be the wait period. As much as readers, like, you know, despise the being like the year between books, the book will be done within, like, I want to say 8 months, maybe less, if you have geniuses freaking working on it. But there's the hype, and that hype to that last stretch is so important. I don't like it. I don't like it, but it must happen. It is a necessary evil I've found, and fine, it hasn't happened. So for me it is the technicalities that I would do different. If only I knew. If only I knew. Plot it. And also, I go into the same amount of detail for plotting the marketing and the distribution. My lists are endless. My cork boards are full. So if I could, I would dispose all of that information upon younger me. But alas, it just means that I have more moving forward.
Absolutely. It means that you've lived and you've learned and you've figured it out.
With a couple of scrapes and bruises, but you know, I'll just get better as I go. And that's the way of the game. That's how it just goes, and that's okay.
Where do you envision taking the story in the future?
We have touched upon the sequels that are happening. There are going to be 4 books in the main series, but with also every sequel, there's going to be a prequel novella that's going to tie everything together. So for every book that gets published, for every sequel, there's going to be a prequel novella that ties in all of the threads, because you get mentions during your read of Earth Sucks of Fung the Mercenary, or Fung the Merc, of which he despises being called, for reasons that you will find out. And those reasons are going to be in the prequel novellas. There's already one that you can get for free by joining my newsletter. It's called The Mercenary and the Hissing Woods. And that's a little teaser there for you. But for the nickname, The Mercenary, there's so much to tell. I could honestly write just a series of its own of full-on novels of his journey, because the world is so big. He has had to travel as he's being hunted. He's also hunting leads on his family, and he's met countless people. He's had countless adventures in northwestern green ruins that they deserve their own spin-offs. So I've decided to pair them up. So there's a whole series of adventures of him on the run, losing himself, hunting leads as to where his family is being held. There's him learning how to regain his humanity in an inhumane world. And there's so many adventures, and you also get to learn more about the world itself, that they're in, this post-apocalyptic world where even the Earth itself is trying to kill us. And the walled cities that have been only briefly mentioned. So you get whole backstories and insights into characters that you're going to meet further into the series. They're not necessary, but oh my gosh, just read them. They will enrich in so much and answer a lot of questions you have about the world building itself. And so it follows from the moment that he loses his family right up until he gets to a certain cabin in a certain patch of woods where he pins Chesuke against the wall demanding information, and Chesuke falls head over heels. The poor fellow. Why do you go for the violent ones, my guy? So each novella is, they were going to be short stories, but wow, nope, that got fleshed out a lot. So every prequel novella is its own adventure of him following leads throughout Green Ruins. And there's going to be, at the very least, 4, possibly more, because my guy, he has traveled a lot, and he has many, many reasons for now hating his new nickname of the Mercenary. And, ooh, I want to give so many spoilers. But just be sure, with every new release, there's going to be a paired novella. Look forward to those.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear about that because, like, I definitely had a lot of questions about, like, how he got to this point where we start the book Earth Sucks. So it's really nice hearing that there's going to be those prequel novellas to, like, actually give people some of those answers, which is always very exciting because some authors kind of will just start in the middle of a story and go and then not give us that extra content.
Definitely.
No, so I think that's, like, so fun and, like, a great thing to look forward to within the series is that, like, you will get some of that extra content if you choose to. You can also, from what you were making it sound like, you could just read the main Earth Sucks novels and, like, you don't need the extra information, but it is there in the novellas if you want to. Is that accurate?
Yes,
great.
Absolutely. Because I am a sucker for world building and extrapolation of different characters, side characters that get their own stories. I'm a sucker for those. So I wanted to make those. And it's going to tie up so that when all of the prequels are finished, you can even read those, and it will lead right into the first Earth Sucks book. And you will have, by then, a physical map that I am planning to create. There is an actual map that's going to come with the second Earth Sucks book, but also there's going to be one purely for Fung the Mercenary's travels. You will see an in-depth look at the entirety of northwestern Green Ruins, where he is, and all the stops that he's made. And it'll have all of the cool place names, like the Hissing Woods, that's an actual place.
Mm-hmm.
And the little dots of, you can follow along with every novella, and I know exactly the cartographer that I've already paired up with her. Like I said, Earth Sucks 2 is ready. So I have the map completely drawn up. I just need to pump out those novellas. But yeah, you'll be able to read all of the prequels and slide right into Earth Sucks 1, and then 2, and then 3, and you'll have 2 separate maps to follow along as well. I have so many merch ideas. Somebody stop me.
No, that's so I was literally gonna say, I'm like, I love that conceptually, but also, like, have you considered the merch? Like, that's gonna be, I hope you come up with stuff and see where that goes, because that
down for also for suggestions and stuff of, like, if people are being like, if you do not produce this thing, I will cry so many buckets of tears I will turn into a skeleton. I will just shrivel up. Please give this to me. I am fully down for DMs. I at the very least know that I would cry myself for a map, so I want a map. I actually have the map that's going in the sequel. It's about, if you stick out your arms completely to the sides and move your arms about that big. I accidentally ordered one that big, and it's about that tall, and it sits right behind me, and it is the most audacious thing I've ever bought. But I wanted the map behind me and big enough that you can point out every piece of the world. You can read the fine print in all of the lands, and I was like, I want that on my wall, and didn't realize how big I ordered it. But you know what? I can look pompous. It's fine. It's my world.
Right? I'm like, if anyone gets to have the big one, like, that's gonna be right behind your desk, and it's gonna be fucking awesome.
Walk into the office, you're going to see my posters, you're going to see the little bookmarks that are available and the little stickers, and then boom, a poster of the world map. And you'd be like, oh, she's got a big ego. No, she misclicked on a form.
I'm sorry, that's so fucking funny. Because I wouldn't have... Like, I feel like if anybody were to see that, they would just assume, like, oh yeah, obviously, like, you're gonna want a big map, it's your own word. Like, that makes sense. The fact that it was an accident is so hysterical.
Human size that, like, you could be like, yeah, can you make it, like, just maybe 2 of my head? Maybe 3? That's not asking. That won't make me look like a snob, right? No, it's just like, boom, as soon as you walk in. Wow, that's a world map. Okay. Sorry, I don't actually have that big of an ego. It just came out really big. That parcel was big.
That's so funny. That's iconic, honestly.
And you know what? If you want one of those, one day it'll be available on Etsy.
Sick.
This is going to be a whole product line, man. I've got so many visions. I say, with only 2 books physically out right now, there's going to be so much content. Just so much content. You'll be swimming in it. 2 books. I'm working on it.
Hey, as long as you're working on it, you'll get there.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
So when you say you have the 2 books out, do you mean The Earth Sucks and then The Hissing Woods, or are you talking about the other book? Because you mentioned briefly that you had gone the traditional route with a small Canadian publisher. When can we expect to see that anywhere?
I'd also like to know that.
Fair. I mean, you already went into the traditional publishing, and that timeline is its own thing, so...
I'm really hoping for, I could give a date, and then they could just look at me and say, no. So, unfortunately, I don't have a timeline right now, but I can say it involves, yeah, I'm gonna say it. It involves a serial killer on campus for a college and a photographer student who believes said serial killer might be in love with him.
Okay.
You know, try graduating with that on your back. So, that I'm hoping in the near future is going to come out. I can say that the sequel to Earth Sucks, I am planning for possibly October.
Okay.
Right, probably August, depending on how my current move goes. But I'm aiming for August. And yeah, Earth Sucks is currently available on Kobo, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble online. And the first prequel novella, is available when you subscribe to my newsletter. And it is a full... That's a word.
It gets the point across. I think it works.
Perfect. I mean, technically I've written about 6 books by now, but not all of them are out. But you know what? That's what we indie publish for, because we are impatient. Coming as from a reader, I'm impatient. As a writer, I'm also impatient. So it works out for you guys perfectly.
Honestly, that is a whole ass mood.
Give me more content. You can totally find me on Instagram is where I am most active. You'll get a lot of sneak peeks and previews there. First, my newsletter, there will be a link, I'm assuming somewhere. And you can find more bonus content on my website. And the newsletter gets information first, Instagram second, and then Tumblr third. So you can find me at HeatherC_author generally everywhere. there's not gonna be much differentiating in I spell it the same way.
So fair. And I'll be sure to link everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll be sure to link everything down.
I'm also on TikTok. I make a lot. If you like just short, funny snippets about books or about the Earth Sucks world, you can find me on TikTok as well, making an absolute fool of myself, as usual.